Is Britain broken? This is the big thing splashing on lots of newspapers today. And I've just got to say this. What planet is Kemi Badenoch and the Tory party living on? They're out today claiming that Britain isn't broken, and perhaps they need a reminder of their track record and their role in breaking Britain. So I'm going to do that job for them. Net zero, one of the most damaging energy and economic policies. You guessed it, Tory policy. The Chagos surrender deal, embarrassing our nation and costing you billions of pounds. That was Tory policy headed up by James Cleverly, the now shadow housing minister. Non-crime hate incidents. They were formalised and expanded under the Tories. GDP per capita has flatlined since 2008. Of course, since then, it's all been under mostly their watch. The woke civil service and more transfer of powers to unelected bureaucrats, that happened under the Tories. 1.2 million migrants let into Britain in 1 year. The Boris wave, it is dubbed. That is Tory policy. In fact, Priti Patel, the shadow foreign secretary, still won't apologise for it in subsequent interviews since they left office. HS2 and Heathrow, the Heathrow third runway. The Tories couldn't even get those built in 14 years. The social care crisis, that's Tory record. The online safety bill, that's Tory policy. No new prisons built whilst importing millions of people. That is, again, Tory policy. The illegal migration crisis, they couldn't even agree on the Rwanda bill. That's Tory policy. Vaccine passports, the Orwellian precursors to digital ID. That's Tory policy too. Failure to deliver Brexit as people desired it, alienating Northern Ireland and leaving us now open to more alignment with the EU. That is Tory record. In fact, Kemi Badenoch, as Business Secretary, was responsible for overseeing the retained EU law bill, which was meant to burn all of the EU legislation holding back our country. She watered that down and has now given Keir Starmer an easy ride to sell Brexit out to the EU today. One new hospital built in 14 years. That is all of that, just some of the Tory track record in 14 years of government. Britain is broken. In a recent poll, 58% of people think nothing in Britain works anymore. 76% said that things are worse now than in the past. And 97% of GB News viewers, you watching at home, said you believe Britain is broken too. So my strong opinion is that the Tories carried on breaking Britain after the Blair-Brown government started it, and this Labour government is now finishing, clearly, the job. Of course, all of this conversation comes as Robert Jenrick, the former Shadow Justice Secretary, claims the Tories couldn't say Britain is broken because they'd have to admit that they broke it. Does it sound like he was lying about that? I don't know. Well, I asked Kemi Badenoch this yesterday, if she would openly say to you, GB News viewers, that Britain is broken. What do you think of her answer?
What I can tell your audience is that it's quite clear that Robert Jenrick tells a lot of lies, and you can't believe a word that comes out of his mouth. This is a man who was asked yesterday morning, are you going to defect? And he said never to the Chief Whip when we found evidence of the speeches he was going to give. And why has all this happened? Because he's fallen out with people, and those people have brought stuff to us. And I won't say much more than that. But the truth is that this is someone who gave a speech yesterday complaining about things that were already there when he was standing to be leader.
I didn't hear an answer to my question. I didn't hear one. And if the Conservatives aren't ashamed of that record, if they can't openly admit their role in breaking Britain, if they can't take accountability and show some introspection, if they can't apologise, then they do not deserve to govern Britain again. I'm not going to be gaslit into believing everything is hunky-dory in Britain because a bunch of failed politicians don't want to be held accountable for their actions. It's that simple. I'm happy to forgive if people can list out the things they've got wrong, but in this case, that still is yet to take place for the Tories.
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private internet access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cyber criminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private internet access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GB News discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GB News to start protecting yourself digitally today.
Of course, I've still got my fantastic panel here with me, Reform UK councillor Russell Quirk, former Labour Party chair Baroness Diane Hayter, and editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday, Charlotte Griffiths. Russell, I'll start with you, and I have a feeling I know what you're going to say, being a Reform UK councillor, but, you know, you might surprise me. Listen, I don't think this is a surprise that the Tories have come out and said that they don't think Britain is broken, because they would have to admit they broke it. I think the litany of things I've listed there is evidence of that. What do you think?
I think that there is a move now as a kind of political strategy by the Conservatives and Labour to try and angle criticism at reform for saying Britain is broken on the basis that it is talking Britain down. It's not. It is simply being realistic. If you don't analyse and admit an issue and a problem, you've got no chance of actually repairing it. So you've just gone through a very, very comprehensive list of policy failure, effectively, and things that this government and the previous one in particular have done that have led us into a place where now we can no longer call ourselves Great Britain. I mean, you're too young, but I can actually still remember when we were called Great Britain. But let's just look very, very quickly at some of the consequences of all of those things. And the reason why I think many ordinary people, not politicians, who live in the Westminster bubble, you know, they're completely removed from reality and real life. Let's look at the economy. Our economy is tepid, is lukewarm to say the least, particularly in relation to other right-wing economies like Argentina and the US that are growing at between 4 and 8% a year. We're growing at 1% a year. We've got inflation that is twice the Bank of England target, unemployment going up, 250,000 jobs lost recently, the highest tax burden, crime going up, immigration out of control, people coming over to our shores that are undocumented, raping our children without putting too fine a point on it, culture wars, two-tier policing, a broken justice system, a civil service that are absolutely activist in terms of the way that they rail against authority, elected authority. I mean, you don't want me to, but I could go on and on.
No, and this is the thing. I could have done that for an hour.
Yeah, how anyone can say that Britain now, compared to 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, is not broken. I mean, they're living under a rock.
Yeah. Diane, am I being unfair to the Tories? Because, you know, they would argue that they had a difficult period of time. They had to take over from Blair, who they left them a financial crisis. They had COVID. They had Brexit to deal with. Am I being unfair to the Tories?
I think I'm going to take what you've just said and make that a Labour Party election broadcast, actually.
Please don't do that.
No, absolutely. We've got it there. I thought that was fantastic. We can use that. Where I disagree is actually I think this is a great country to live in. I really do. I travel a lot, and this is, you know, it is not broken. We should stop talking down our country, and we should start being a little bit more proud of our country. Obviously, Russell himself was a Tory through all of this period and was quite happy with it at the time.
No, I wasn't. I haven't been a Tory for 10 years.
10 years. Well, a lot of that was you were still there. But we are not a broken country. You know, we have got great schools. We've got now we've got a free health service that most countries, nearly every country doesn't have. It may not be perfect, but it is better
Record
than...
high waiting lists.
So is every other country. You
That's
seem
not
to
a good
assume...
thing, Diane. It doesn't mean that it's working, does it? You can't just say, well, everyone else is having a bad time,
Wait
so
a
we're
minute.
having a bad time too.
It is working. We have 1 million people every day seeing their doctors, our GPs, and much of our health service. It's not perfect.
Okay.
But I have to say, we are the envy of the world about our health service, that people can get it free. We've got good old age pensions. Now, there is a major problem, which is that people's real living standards haven't gone up, basically since the crash.
Yeah.
The crash was sort of 8, 9, really. Living standards haven't gone up, and that really flavours everything else that you're doing, because you don't change your car as often and you don't have as much for holidays and all of that. And there is an underlying problem of the cost of living. But that is not to say that everything else isn't working. We've got a good police force, we've got a judiciary,
Sorry, a good
and
police
all of that.
force?
Yes, we
Seriously?
have a good police
Can you honestly say that with a
Well, let me
straight
bring
face?
Charlotte, because I want to bring Charlotte. I want to hear
Really?
Charlotte's opinions on this, because I might be being unfair. I'm listing a litany of things that I think the Tories got wrong, and I think there is a lot that they got wrong. And what I want to see is introspection in political parties when they're booted dramatically out of office, a thumping for them to go, maybe we should just reflect on that and apologise. Now, I haven't seen those apologies for the 1.2 million people brought into Britain when they're building no homes, new prisons, new hospitals, and that's my problem, Charlotte.
Yeah, Jenrick's been quite clever because he's forced her into a position where she's agreeing really with the Labour Party.
Yes.
Now. But, you know, she's right to stop doing down Britain and to say that, yes, she did say there are real problems and the problems are getting worse. But the thing is, and I agree with her when she says we have to empower Britain, because I'm of that age and stage where lots of my friends are now leaving. You know, loads of families that I know have left because they're giving up on Britain, because we've been told time and time again, Britain's broken, it's completely awash, get out of here. And what she's just trying to do, really, is be a little bit optimistic and say, you know, don't do it down, otherwise you'll lose your best people.
Yeah.
And you're right, the state is broken, and England is battered and bruised, but she's just trying to offer, I think, a glimmer of hope. I'm desperate to latch onto that hope. I'm desperate to keep hold of my friends that keep moving to Dubai, to be honest. And, you know, you can't just be miserable all the time.
No, it's fair enough. It's a fair argument. My political philosophy is realism, and it makes me very cynical and very miserable. Who knows, right?